if you're frustrated, if you're stressed, if you're overwhelmed, like, let's all just take a deep breath and know that what we are going to talk about today, I would say everyone has gone through.
Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your host, Michael and Courtney Weaver. I've got a question for you today. More of a statement. If your team is not consistently hitting goals and expectations, this is probably the reason why.
We're going to give it to you today.
What's up, Courtney?
Hey, what's up?
How you doing today?
I'm really good.
I know I've been around you all day long, but how's the day been? How's the day been?
All day. It's been good. I am excited to have this conversation because we are going into Q4, and Q4 always feels like this turn of the knob of not only do I have to kind of wrap the year up, but I also have to set up what's coming next year. So it's kind of I need to be paying attention to goals I still need to hit, but I also have to be looking at where are we going next year?
Yeah, we're officially in like
go mode.
I was going to say, oh shit season. Oh shit. It's almost the end of the year.
It is on.
Oh shit.
Like Donkey Kong.
We got a little ways to go before we hit our goals.
Yeah. So I want to talk about expectations because this is the thing that I hear thrown around a lot.
Okay.
When talking about production, team, holding people accountable. Ooh, I don't like having tough conversations. I don't want to have conversations around holding somebody accountable. And I think that there's some prep work that you can do that will help to not have to have those conversations or to make those conversations a little bit easier. So you not only get production, but then you don't have to have the uncomfortable conversation.
Okay.
So let's talk about R&Rs.
R&Rs. Mm-hmm. Rest and relaxation.
I would love to talk about rest and relaxation. Roles and responsibilities.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Defining roles and responsibilities.
So being a business owner is like getting into this boat. And it could be a nice boat. It could be a canoe. I don't know, whatever you want to do. But you open up your business and you build your boat. And then you put your employees, everyone that makes the boat continue to row, you put them all in this boat and then you give them an oar. You expect that they know which direction to row, how to row, when to row, but there's no clear communication on that. Or maybe you think there is, but there's not. If you are having any kind of pain or frustration around targets, and if you are questioning, what are they doing all day? You haven't had this conversation.
You can't see me right now unless you're watching this on YouTube, but I just did a massive forehead rub and face rub. I have no idea how we were successful as first-time business owners and insurance agents because there were no roles and responsibilities. I barely gave them the handbook. I'm like, here, just hit your goals every single week and we'll make it work.
So this is why we have to tell you this now. We don't want you to go through that.
Dude, this is
10 years of learning.
I'm rubbing my head like, what was I doing back then? I wasn't doing it. It's the problem. And that's why there were so many headaches and so many tough conversations that had to be had because I assumed that, we figure this out. They know what they're supposed to do. They come in, they make calls, do the quotes, they produce, they hit their production goals. Everybody's a happy camper. No, that's just not the case. Not everybody's a happy camper, including myself, including them, because there were no guardrails. There was no like clarity in what they should be doing. They knew they had to produce and they knew they had to answer the phones or whatever, but man, actually like defined roles and responsibilities. Poor leadership over here.
And if you are listening and you feel this is me, this is very common.
Super common.
If you are frustrated, if you're stressed, if you're overwhelmed, like let's all just take a deep breath and know that what we are going to talk about today, I would say everyone has gone through. I know we have gone through it in multiple different businesses. But this is not to micromanage. what we're going to share with you, the conversation to have with not only yourself, but your team, is going to provide more autonomy. It's going to provide more ownership. It's going to provide more clarity, which will eliminate the face rub. It will eliminate the, oh my God, I don't know what they're doing. I don't want to have this conversation. So let's get into this.
It'll eliminate the, do they even know what they're do they even know?
Are we even on the same boat? I mean, like, what happened here? You're in a kayak and I'm on a yacht. Where
I'm paddling right, you're paddling left.
Yep.
This is weird. We're going in opposite directions here.
Yes. And we actually had this conversation. We treated it like, we don't even like the New England Patriots. Why did we do this analogy when we were in agency?
Well, because
we like Bill Belichick?
Well, because I am a football fan, and at one point in time, the Patriots were pretty good. They were known as maybe the greatest football team ever. But now we've got the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, that's the
analogy. And so now the analogy is going to be referenced to the Kansas City Chiefs.
I like it.
Because we are the up and coming greatest of all time. Patrick Mahomes, Chiefs. I mean, literally Super Bowl the last 3 of the 4 years, not to rub it in or anything, but we're creating a dynasty over here. That's why we reference
bold claim, Cotton.
The Patriots at one point in time.
Okay, so the reference, I'm completely sidetracked now because now
roles and responsibilities, R&R.
Okay, so the reference was when everyone hit the field, they did their job. They stayed in their lane. They were responsible for the things that they were responsible for. So how you would set this up to figure out who is responsible for what. I think a lot of times the business owner, the agent feels like it's their responsibility. Like you think it's your responsibility to tell somebody what they're responsible for. What I would encourage you to do is instead of telling somebody, let's have a conversation about this and let it be interactive. So what I mean by that is you can write down everything that you think they are responsible for, but I would encourage them to write down everything that they're responsible for. What does their day look like every single day? And this is where I would start, because then you can also start to compare. Because that feeling of, I wonder what they do all day, you're going to be able to see it. And there might be some things on there that you're not accounting for. So I would have every single person in the office, remote or in person, go through and list out, what are you responsible for?
Yeah, and let's dig into this because we just worked on this exercise with our one-on-one client that we work with, and she was having a hard time with, well, okay, how do I even get into this conversation? Like, how do I even approach my team with, hey, you need to write down your roles and responsibilities, and then we're going to meet and we're going to talk about it.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
Like there is that step that you may have some fear right now, even thinking about, like, how am I going to approach my team and be like, yo, time to put pen to paper, roles, responsibilities, expectations, write them down, and we're going to meet and talk about it. This doesn't have to be a tough conversation. Mm-hmm. This should be a welcoming conversation. We're going into the last quarter of the year. We need to make sure everybody's on the same page. You're beginning to plan for 2024. So this is going to help your preparation as the agency owner, leader, manager within your agency. So it's really simple to, hey, next week, I'm going to be having one-on-ones with every single person on the team. And I'm just starting to plan for 2024 and what that looks like. And so what this meeting is going to be about is just your roles, responsibilities, expectations, because I want to make sure that, number one, that we're all on the same page. And number two, I want you to write them down and I want me to write them down. And then we're going to have a conversation just around to make sure that, hey, everything is aligned and that you're not doing something that you shouldn't even be doing and I'm not holding you accountable to, and vice versa.
Yeah. And I love how you approach that, because it is just a conversation. You're just setting expectations of, I want to make sure that I'm leading you in the best way. And I also want to make sure that you're not doing something that 2 other people are doing too.
Yep.
I would take it a step further. So not only listing everything that you do, I would also maybe highlight the things that you love and highlight the things that you don't love, because there is this expectation that because I love something and I'm good at something, or I dislike something, or I'm not good at something, that it's the exact same as the person next to me. The thing that you hate, the thing that you do not like to do, that you want to constantly delegate, might be somebody else's favorite thing on the team.
Yep.
We're all different. So I think this is a good kind of next step too, to get some transparency.
That's a good one. I almost said I love that, but I stopped myself. That's a good one. That's because now you're going to find out each individual on your team what they actually enjoy about what they do and what they don't like about what they do. And when you find, if you have this conversation with every person on your team, you have a team of 5, well, you may be able to narrow down real quickly, man, these 3 people really dislike this, but these 2 people are like, I love this. I love that.
I love that.
So this is really good. That's great.
Okay. So we've had a conversation. We haven't made it awkward. We haven't made it weird. We haven't made it tough. This is all about us working as a unit and making sure that we are helping each other, that we are leading each other accordingly, and that we're not crossing over and doing somebody else's job.
And just to confirm, just to make sure I'm on the same page as you. So their team member is going to do roles, responsibilities, expectations, maybe 3 different categories.
Yep.
This is what I do. And the agency owner manager is going to do the same thing for that individual.
Yep. And the agency owner, the business owner, also has to do the same thing for themselves.
Nice.
If you are a leader, you're not going to ask your team to do something that you are not willing to do yourself.
Preach. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page here.
And you also get to highlight things that you like and highlight things that you don't.
Yep.
Because you really need to fine tune what can be automated, what can be delegated, who goes to what.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. So we have all of this. I feel like I've driven this point home.
This is great. Yep. We're going to do this. And then we're getting the time on the calendar with the team member.
Yep.
30-minute meeting.
Yep.
It's plenty of time.
We're going to follow up. We're going to walk through.
Yep.
All right. This is where I'm going to pull it apart even more, because it's similar to the sales conversation, to where you have to dig deeper.
Mm-hmm.
The leadership conversation and the sales conversation are very similar. So, example, one of the things that they wrote down is, I'm responsible for answering the phone. Okay. That's great. If I can ask more questions on that, more clarifying questions, that is not a definition of done. So you have to clarify, what does done look like on every single task? Because if not, what you're met with is resentment. Because you have a version of, well, when I say this, when I say answering the phone, this is what I mean, but you haven't communicated that. So then time goes on, you build this resentment up, then you have to have a tough conversation.
Boom, volcano, explode.
Boom, volcano explode is right.
Everybody's getting fired today.
Yeah. Yeah, you come in, you're like, I'm going to burn this baby down. I'm letting it all go.
Oh, I've been there.
Oh, man. You're like, you know what? You're all gone. Myself included. I'm out.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
This is
build this up.
This is such a great point. So to your answering phone.
What is the expectation?
If you're an individual that's listening to this and you're like, so I used to have this rule. The phone doesn't ring past the second ring.
Yep.
If it rings past the second ring, somebody's head's going to be ringing in here. Like we talk and we having a conversation.
He is nostril flaring.
Because customer service is look, a lot of things have changed over my 10 years of business ownership. That rules no longer applies. Okay. But back then that drove me insane. And so that needed to be clearly stated. So if you're somebody right now that also has the same rule, or maybe it's hey, voicemails get checked by end of day. Is that actually okay with you? Or if they're not checked within 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, you have steam coming off of you because you're like, what are they doing? This voicemail has been here for an hour and it hasn't been checked.
That needs to be addressed.
Has to be addressed.
Yeah. All these things that you kind of, I don't want to say sweep under the rug because you trip over that thing. But the pain points that you go through every single day, all those little frustrations are conversations that need to be had. There needs to be clarification. That's why there's always a frustration. So to your point of the voicemail, if you want voicemails checked by the end of the day, first, as a leader, is that your true expectation? Or do you want them checked every hour, top of the hour, make sure that the voicemails are cleaned up? And then you have to communicate that. So when they go through every single thing of what they do, maybe it's claims calls, maybe it's answering the phone, maybe it's checking voicemail, clarify what does done look like for each task. Every single one.
I'm just thinking to myself, I was kind of a hard ass to work for back in the day.
But
I was a soft ass at the same time.
So,
oh man. Anyway, sorry. I'm not going to derail us off of this great conversation.
I like it.
I'm just self-reflecting right now as we're talking.
No, I think that you had, I'm not going to justify, but I think what you did a really great job of was it was clear on what your expectations were. And you stuck to them. So like for us, Michael has a big thing about being on time. And so every single person that we hired, if you're not 5 minutes early, you're late. That's it. That's how it is. And we had very few rules, but that was one of them. And I think that this conversation is so important because one of my favorite things to ask in an interview, if I'm hiring somebody, is what would make you quit this job? What would make you quit this job? I need to know what that looks like. And I will communicate to them what would make me fire them. It's a very transparent conversation. But for most people, that's the last time you have a conversation on roles, responsibilities, and expectations. That is the last time that you ever reaffirm, what are you doing? What does it look like? Where do you need help? Until you get to the end where you've built up all this resentment and you're like, you're out. And they think, what the hell? I don't even know what I did, because there weren't checkpoints built in along the way. And it doesn't have to be an uncomfortable confrontation. It's a conversation around, all right, show me what this looks like. Because they may be doing it in a way that you're like, man, you've added 7 steps. Let me help you condense this. Yep. Or they might be doing something that they absolutely hate, but the person sitting next to them loves. Like, this is all about trying to curate and trying to put the right people in doing something that they love. And obviously there's going to be aspects that they don't enjoy. Absolutely. But to where they take ownership of what they're doing, because what you want is a self-managing team. You want a team that runs without you. And in order to do that, there has to be rules. There have to be roles and expectation. Like, there has to be guardrails. Yep. And it doesn't have to be a bad, tough conversation where you're cracking skulls.
Not if you do it the way that you're talking about right now. If you do it the way that you're talking about and like we're sharing about right now, to where maybe you implement this exercise every quarter. So every 90 days, you're just having a quick 30-minute conversation around roles, responsibilities, expectations, making sure everybody is on the same page. Nothing has changed. Maybe changes do need to be made. That's fine. But every 90 days you're visiting about this. I think that would take a lot of the headache out of, because what you just said is so true. On your first day of a new hire, you're talking about roles, responsibilities, expectations. And then on your last day, you're talking about the roles, responsibilities, and the expectations that you didn't do. And that's why you're getting fired. And that's not necessarily, it's not fair at all, because there hasn't been constant and consistent communication around that the entire relationship. And that's not fair to you, nor is it fair to your team.
No, it would be like you get married and you say, these are my values and this is what I stand for and this is what's important to me on your wedding day. And then you spend 5 years and then you're like, you keep building and building and building. And finally you're like, we're done. Get out. Which
that may happen. I don't know.
Pack your shit up, leave.
No, this is good. All right.
So going through that whole process, identifying who's in charge of what. If you are the leader, I also think that you should share your list with the entire team, because this is also holding yourself to a higher standard. This is holding yourself to expectations and communicating that with the team, because resentment goes both ways. And I have seen it to where as a leader, you're wondering what your team is doing, but also your team is wondering what you're doing. So this really creates a level of transparency and clarity. Because tough conversations happen because there's a lack of vulnerability, there's a lack of transparency, there's a lack of clear-cut expectations.
Yep.
That's why you get into a tough conversation, is because there weren't prep conversations ahead of time. And it's just open communication. And if you're a leader and you're like, hey, I have no expectations and I have no roles and responsibilities. Okay. When you communicate that, I'm curious to see how that's going to be received, because it's really hard to hold somebody to a higher standard and expect them to take ownership in the business when you have tapped out.
Oh yeah. If you're not pouring into them, somebody else is going to have to. So yeah, that's, but if you've set up your business to where you have exited, but you've got the people in place.
Yeah.
But you still have a direct, no matter where you're at in your business or agency career, you're still going to have at least one direct person that is responding to you. You're responding to them. And so you're going to have that conversation with them at a minimum.
Somebody's holding
Even if you are the true CEO of your business and you've only got one contact person to your business, whether it's your COO or whatever it is, your partner, that also needs to be communicated. Roles, responsibilities, expectations of each other.
Every single person.
Or someone's going to be unhappy in that relationship. And we know what unhappiness relates to. Boom, volcano, explosion, pointing of fingers, yelling, screaming matches. Oh, I'm getting a little too personal now.
Yeah. So that's it. That's what we're telling you today. As you're preparing to wrap up the end of the quarter, you're preparing to really set out and crush 2024 like we know you are going to. Let's just add a little bit of conversation to help really define who's responsible for what, who's excited about what they're doing, what the expectations are, why we all got in the boat and we grabbed an oar, what direction that we're headed. Just get everyone on the same page.
And if I can share a success story, the client I brought up earlier, she had this conversation and a month later, her team had the best month they've ever had. They're all on the same page. They're more excited than they've been. And she said that she can remember. And so if you're needing that nudge that you're like, oh, this sounds good, but does it actually really? Yes, it works. It works. You just have to have the courage to have the conversations, because it's not even a tough conversation. It's just having the courage to get it on the calendar and making sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
It's amazing what happens when there's a clear picture of how to win and what your actual true expectations are, just not what they're assumed to be.
Yes, this applies everywhere. This is everything. This is not like you need proof that it works. This has to happen.
Her team was actually super pumped that they had the conversation.
Yeah,
they were excited.
Most people think about this. Most people enjoy a clear plan and being told what to do and how to win. Like, I love when somebody says, all right, this is the target, because then it's a game for me.
Yep.
Like, if you tell me you're not going to micromanage me, you're just going to tell me this is my role. These are my responsibilities. This is my expectation. This is my expectation of done. I'm like, perfect. Game on.
This was good. You crushed.
Did we have fun today?
I feel like today was fun. We talked about volcanoes. We talked about the Kansas City Chiefs being the best ever.
Chiefs.
I don't know. We talked about a lot of good things today.
If you enjoyed this episode,
mainly roles, responsibilities, and expectations.
If you enjoyed, hold on, let me get it. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, please do me a favor and send us a message at 816-727-7610. Let me know you put this on the calendar. Let me know you had this conversation. Let me know you're hyped about next year.
That radio voice, though.
Thank you so much for tuning in.
Actually, that may be more like a 1-800
call.
We may have young ears. I'm sorry. All right. Oh, my friends, as always, time is the most valuable and important asset that we all have. We appreciate you spending time with us today. Go out.
Make it great.